Well, that was an entertaining game as well. There's a ton of roster moves for the Toronto Blue Jays to finish off the season.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. But Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Wasco, Carter First too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays as well. If you're new here to YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out and keeps you guys up to date. If you're listening anywhere else and you want to be notified about our live streams, video, shorts, whatever, you can also hit that bell notification on YouTube, and it'll let you know, give you a notification whenever it pops up. Not a ton to get into today, but a lot of interesting stuff to sort of end the Blue Jays season. We'll go over the game. There was some interesting stuff happened. Pretty electric game. I mean, sort of, not great end, but, I think overall as a viewing experience, it was all right. As well, a ton of roster moves and some additions, some Blue Jays news, everything sort of to come after that. Carter, let's do a quick sort of dive into your thoughts, our thoughts, feelings on the game yesterday. It was a bit of a shootout.
Yeah, just slightly a bit of a shootout. 21 runs scored in the game. That's a football score. It's an NFL score we get on a Tuesday night game. You get the Texas Rangers. You're looking to go 12-0. We talked about it on the last podcast. That was our hopes and dreams on Locked On Blue Jays. Did we think that was realistic? Absolutely not. And our hopes and dreams automatically get shut down immediately. You score 8 runs, you can't even win a baseball game. That is typical Toronto Blue Jays. Bullpen's not great, yet Chris Bassitt obviously didn't have his stuff today, putting up the Texas Rangers with the Rangers team and how they've been playing this season. They score 13 runs on your team. Usually things aren't going to go your way, obviously, in that game. The pitching just wasn't good. Simple as that. That's been a common theme on this podcast as of recently. But this offense, let's talk about the offense. We were worried about the offense a lot at the start of the season. We had a lot of old guys here. Kevin Kiermaier, you guys already know as you've watched the Toronto Blue Jays season. Justin Turner, to name a few. You get younger. The Toronto Blue Jays get a lot of prospects. They got some young guys play baseball. And again, they're not winning baseball games. You're not getting the result that at the end of the day is going to be what you need to be successful. But if we're talking about just pure enjoyment over the last 2 weeks of watching Toronto Blue Jays baseball games, it has been so much more fun watching guys like Joey Lopervito, David Schneider, how good he's been the last 3 games, Ernie Clement, the Buffalo Boys, you name it, all of these guys compared to the guys that are at the end of their contracts. And you get Bichette back this game, as we'll get into later on in this podcast. Just overall thoughts of the game, though. I mean, Chris Bassitt, you got to be better, obviously. You get Nathan Eovaldi. Eovaldi's a good pitcher, so that's another plus to the Toronto Blue Jays offense. David Schneider is just on a little bit of a mini insanity run, 3 home runs in 3 games. Ernie Clement came up with the bases loaded. I believe that was in the 7th inning. We had some bets on it, just like like sideways with a couple of our friends. We're here watching the Blue Jays game this time. Doesn't get it done. Double play ball. It's a little bit unfortunate there, but overall, very fun game to watch. You want the Toronto Blue Jays to win, but from a baseball fan perspective, I'm taking 13-8 every single day over a 1-0 or 2-1 baseball game. Hits make the game of baseball way more fun.
Yeah, it was. It was a fun game. And, it's enjoyable when there are a ton of runs. And that's the biggest component. The biggest thing for me with the return of Bichette is just how awesome the top of this order was to watch. They were working exactly what, moving into 2025, you look at the top 4 guys in this lineup, you're not going to get much better than what we got last night. It was fun to watch. I mean, just to go over some stats here, George Springer, 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored. Bichette, 2 for 5. Vlad, 3 for 5. Spencer Horwitz, only 1 for 5. But overall, I mean, you look at those statistics, and just with those, if you just looked at those 4 guys, you assume the Blue Jays won this game. I mean, yes, the defense was absolutely abysmal tonight. The umping, I will get onto. It was terrible for those of you who watched the game last night. It was horrible. But you know what? Let's start on the 4 guys here, Carter, with the return of Bichette. How great did the top of this order look?
unbelievable. You look at the stat line they gave you. This is exactly what you wanted at the start of the season. You wanted this the entire season for the Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe you don't want to put as much pressure on these three guys because, as you see, if it doesn't work out, things go terribly wrong. You put way too much pressure on three players on your baseball team. You need other guys to be able to contribute. But you 7 for 14, 10 total bases. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. just looking better than ever. Has pretty much the entire season. Having Bo Bichette in this lineup, again, I wasn't expecting a lot from Bo Bichette, especially with him being injured again. He did have his little bit of a rehab stint. But you get a little bit of Bo Bichette going the other way. You get obviously Bo Bichette going up the middle as well. That's Bo Bichette's bat in this lineup for next season. It's something to get excited about, especially when you got guys lower on in this order, firing on all cylinders. So there's a lot of things to get excited about for this Toronto Blue Jays team. But having George Springer, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. come out in the first inning, so fun to watch. Just a great visual. And look what happens. You get 2 runs in the first inning. You score early on in the game. That's what you want to do. You want to get to the starting pitcher early. And in the first inning, that should be your best chance to get to the starting pitcher because the starting pitcher isn't warmed up. And you should, in theory, have your 3 best hitters hitting in that inning. So it's nice to see the Toronto Blue Jays score early. Having Bo Bichette back in this lineup is definitely something that I'm going to get used to again. Bo Bichette is just, it's one of those things that's the recency bias. We haven't seen Bo Bichette in a long time. Toronto Blue Jays fans sort of forgot what this guy can do when he is firing on all cylinders. So he's got 12 games, 11 now after the first game of the Texas series, obviously. Just want him to continue mashing. If he can hit around 350, get that OPS, probably about 800, 850, maybe slug a little bit. You didn't really see Bo Bichette hitting for power too early in this season. So he can hit a couple more home runs to end the season off. I'm going to be in a good spot with Bo Bichette.
Yeah, and you talked about getting the runs early, right? And I remember at the beginning of this season, I was making the bets on FanDuel all the time saying, no runs scored in the first because it just wouldn't happen with this team. The top of the order wouldn't be able to get things done early. And now looking back, I don't know if the last time I've placed that bet because they are able to score early and injecting Bo Bichette back into this lineup is so massive for this team. And hopefully we can see what he can do in the last 11 games of the season here. And hopefully that carries him over into 2025. He can work on some things through the off season. And Carter, I know that we've talked about Bo Bichette quite a bit here, a little bit. So I think let's just get right into it. He was talking about some of the swing change stuff and sort of trying to find himself post-injury. What did he have to tell? I think it was Hazel May today on the broadcast.
Yeah, I got some stuff from Hazel here. So Bo Bichette says he started to listen to his dad, Dante Bichette, again. If you don't know Dante Bichette, just look up the name. Hall of Fame career, just absolutely insane. A very good hitter. He was with the Toronto Blue Jays. Was that 2021? I think that was the year that they were kind of mashing the baseball a little bit. And maybe they need Dante Bichette back because that team in 2021, if you remember, that offense was very fun to watch. So with Dante Bichette, probably a guy that wouldn't be the worst person to listen to, and it's definitely nice to have him as your father. You literally have him accessible to you pretty much. It should be at any time that Bo Bichette needs. Again, I'm not exactly 100% sure what the relationship is like, but I got to assume that it is pretty good. But continuing on with the Bo Bichette and Dante Bichette stuff. Bo Bichette just is, again, it's the kind of the stuff that you expect to hear. Nothing too crazy on these answers, but he says just get back into the basics and just being quiet and listening. So it doesn't, again, Bo Bichette is not a guy that's going to give you this 5-minute answer to a question. He's a guy that is more on the quiet side, is just usually stays home with himself, doesn't like to put his thoughts and feelings out there too much, is very internalized. And with Bo Bichette, you don't necessarily need this guy to be this huge vocal piece. This is a guy that's going to lead by example. If you have Bo Bichette absolutely raking, coming up there with a good approach, that approach we've seen from Bo Bichette throughout his entire career, this is a guy that you're going to be very excited to watch. I think I have one more quote from his dad. I'm not sure if you have anything else to add to this, but this one is from Keegan Matheson. Bo Bichette continues on and says, I think everybody gets to a point where they want to know better than their parents. I probably got there. Bo Bichette said it was about getting back to the basics and being quiet and listening. So just a little bit of a repeat with the Hazel May stuff. And yeah, maybe Bo Bichette gets in his own head a little bit. Again, I know, my dad wasn't an MLB baseball player, but I know there has been multiple times that my dad said something. I didn't think it was true in the moment. Maybe weeks pass, maybe days pass, maybe 5 minutes passes, and I realized that I was the idiot in that situation. I probably should have listened to my dad or my parents, a little bit wiser, obviously. So it's nice that Bo Bichette can take that step back, realize things aren't going well, and take some advice from a player, from a father figure, a father that was very good in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and Carter, going to that, sometimes I think we don't realize what goes through the head of these baseball players, right? They're playing every day. Sometimes you don't have that second to, look at the overall picture, look at what's happening, take yourself out of it a little bit. And maybe that's what this injury has done for Bo Bichette, given him some time to evaluate and reevaluate everything he's done throughout the season when it comes to contract talks, his game on the field. I mean, there's so many things with Bo Bichette that we assume or we take out of context or pull from here because maybe that is what he said. But taking a step back, maybe he realizes that he's in a better situation than he thought before. And there's things like with his swing, with getting back to the basics, with slowing it down, with taking advice. That all comes easier when you're not in games every single day, right? You have that time to take yourself out of it. And I think that's what happened here with Bo Bichette in this injury. Carter, we have a lot more to get into, a little bit more on the game still we want to talk about. I think let's take a quick break. We'll come back with some more on the game, and then we'll start getting into some of the roster moves and just some other Blue Jays news in general. Today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays is brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how big of fans we are of FanDuel. Like I talked about earlier on making bets and placing them. That's all I do. All I do is use FanDuel because it is my favorite app on my phone. You've heard us talk a ton about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now they have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Me and Carter are going to take huge advantage of this. We're big football fans. Fantasy. Carter has been dialed into fantasy, I believe, for out of the 14 hours maybe that we've been awake. He's maybe been on about 13 hours of fantasy on his phone. A lot to do. FanDuel's got a great deal for you. Check them out. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. I always talk about how great Game Time is because it's the best place to buy your tickets. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Pick filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I talk about this all the time. When I want to go buy tickets, I want to know what the seat looks like. They have the great seat live view, so you can see exactly what the view from your seat is. And the other thing is getting in and out quick. I don't want to be waiting in line and having to search through a bunch of tickets to find the right one. Game Time Picks filters everything out, makes it super easy for you. They also have the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. So, Carter, we went into a little bit on this game, but, not a ton as we sort of got, derailed into the Bo Bichette talk that we were going to save for later. But I think it was a good spot to throw that in there. Got to talk about Davis Schneider. The guy's been absolutely electric. And when Davis Schneider is hot, I'm going to talk about him because, like I always talk about, one of my favorite guys on the team, very likable. Good day from him. Big home run in a spot. Too bad it didn't end up mattering, and the Blue Jays lose the game anyway. But a big day from him, and you can sort of see the progression Davis Schneider's making.
Look what happens when you get a day from the top of the order. You get those hits from George Springer, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And then you get a little help from the bottom of the order. These guys throughout the lineup. The only player without a hit today was Leo Jimenez, and obviously Davis Schneider helped out a ton. When you hit the long ball and you score some runs in the bottom of that order, that's going to help your offense out tremendously. So when we talk about Davis Schneider, we've said this so many times, and we've pretty much stayed true to this because this is exactly how it should be with a guy like Davis Schneider. You don't need this guy to hit a home run every single game. He has in the last 3 games. It's been awesome. Definitely not going to complain about that. But you need this guy to complement the offense. It's what you need your 6 through 9 guys to do. You don't need these guys to be hitting 300, getting up on base at a 400 clip, slugging at massive amounts, whatever it is. You need these guys to just come up in big situations, get big hits. You get some games where your top of the lineup is going to go off. They maybe have 3 home runs at the top of the order. Doesn't necessarily mean too much if you win 10-1 compared to 3-1. The win is what matters. So you look in a game like this, again, you do need more runs. This was more so on the pitching. But if you have a 2-2 game, you get a game where Davis Schneider, a guy like Ernie Clement, a guy like IKF earlier on this season. Now you got guys like Will Wagner, Joey Lopez, Vito. You got guys like this at the bottom of your order that can do damage. It's going to help your team tremendously just in the long run. And it's going to help you just when top of the order is at a point where you can kind of just like you're relying on 3 guys in your order. You're completely juicing up the top 3. And then after that, you don't have to worry about guys later on in the order. They tend to pitch around the guys at the top of the order more frequently. They'll have the ability to throw balls in the corner. If you walk the guys, it's not the end of the world because you're not necessarily worried about the guys at the bottom of the order. If you have a more full lineup, you have guys that can do damage throughout the entire order. There's really no time off. You don't get a battery like, okay, this guy should be a fairly easy out. Let's kind of just take it easy here, just quickly work efficiently and focus on the next guy. You got to approach every single batter the same way. Every single guy in the lineup can do damage. Davis Schneider has been a guy that's shown us he can do this fairly consistently. But again, you need other guys on this team to do that. But it is fun watching Davis Schneider launch baseballs to the moon. I will say that.
Yeah, it was fun. And actually Carter called the home run on the specific pitch, which was hilarious too. So shout out you, Carter. We got to go into, we went into the good of today or yesterday, Carter. Now it's time to focus a little bit on the bad. Chris Bassitt did not look good. This is one of those games that, it is the classic Chris Bassitt where there will be points in the ball game where Chris Bassitt looks like he's in trouble with the bases loaded or 2 guys on, and he usually works out of it. But today was not one of those days. Chris Bassitt goes 3 2/3 innings, 6 hits, seven runs, only 1 earned run though, Carter, just because of the amount of errors and throwaways and everything, in between. 2 strikeouts, 3 walks, didn't give up the long ball today, but just not his best outing. And to complement that in a bad way, I guess, the defense was very, very poor again.
It was horrendous. The defense was very bad after a series where they just played very good defense against the St. Louis Cardinals. But then you go to the series before that, you had the Braves, you had other series there as well, just not playing that good of defense. And I've always said, especially, that I would rather throw defense out the window to get some offense. And in a game like this, I'll still stay true to that. But man, making errors on simple plays is definitely frustrating. You look at Chris Bassitt. I believe it was in the 3rd inning where you have a ground ball straight to the pitcher. Chris Bassitt takes his time, tries to make a throw to Vladdy, and it's just way over his head. It's not even close. Chris Bassitt's first error of the season. Things like this happen. But you got a runner on 2. You have the easiest play probably ever to first base, a throw from the mound to first base. You don't make that throw, you cost yourself a run. Then later on in the game, Ernie Clement makes another error. You got just little plays throughout the game where if you get these outs, you don't give up nearly as many runs, and that definitely adds up over a course of time. And you also mentioned that Chris Bassitt has 3 walks. You can just tell on this entire start, the command was an issue. He was not locating pitches like he normally does. When you're a guy like Chris Bassitt and you don't have the velocity where you're throwing 100, 102, you're kind of getting a clip at 91, 92 where he was sitting today. You got to have pretty good command. Command wasn't there. The Texas Rangers lineup is still pretty good, even though their record is not that good. Some guys are having some down years, but they still have some dogs throughout this lineup, so you can't take them too lightly. And they jumped all over Chris Bassitt, and not even only Chris Bassitt, just everyone on the mound today. It seemed like could not throw a pitch, could not get a 0. Like you're looking at these lines here. How many zeros did we get from the Toronto Blue Jays? We got a Ryan Burr 0, we got a Zach Pop 0, and we got Eric Swanson 0, but he pitched 1 inning. He pitched 1 out. He got 1 out. So you're looking at these guys. Like you're going to need more zeros from these guys, obviously. And you have Fraze pitching. That guy is just it's like a Yari Rodriguez. It's Jose Cuas. Who cares at this point? That's your 8th reliever. Get him off my baseball team. I don't want to see this guy whatsoever. Let's roll 7 relievers. Maybe you can go out there. You can be the 8th reliever for the Toronto Blue Jays to end this season. But like Tommy Nance didn't look good today. Zach Pop actually looked okay, I guess, compared to regular Zach Pop, but it's Zach Pop again. This bullpen's not that good. So a lot of these guys, as we went over, I believe it was last week with our bullpen episode, hopefully a lot of these guys are not going to be there. Hopefully this team can bolster their bullpen in this offseason, because these guys, what they were doing out there today, it was tough to watch. Every single time that there was one base runner, and you knew that the Texas Rangers were going to score in that inning. You need better pitching. Pitching is going to win you games. It's going to win you championships. You're not going to win too many baseball games giving up 13 runs. But again, where the Toronto Blue Jays are, where we are at with this season, I didn't mind this game. For as much as I am being negative from a fan perspective, I'm taking this a million times out of a million. But obviously there is things that you need to work on. You don't give up 13 runs for no reason. Score 8 runs from an offensive standpoint. That should be enough. For me, offensively, I'm fine with everything that everyone did today. Leo Mendez, you want him to get a hit. instead he gets hit by a pitch, the thing that this guy just seemingly loves to do. But yeah, the pitching just has to be better. Simple as that.
Yeah, you're right. And I look back at sort of where we were at the beginning of the year, and I would much rather watch this baseball game than a 2-1, pitchers duel. But in the same respect, when we're looking forward into next season, your pitchers have to be good to win baseball games and championships, like you said. The only issue with all this is that going into next year, relievers and bullpen arms are going to be at a premium, and the Jays are going to have to pay money to get some of these guys. And that's something the Jays just aren't known for doing. They don't go out and give big contracts to relievers. So that's going to be a question moving forward, maybe a conversation that we will have on this podcast sort of in a larger scope, maybe for our offseason preview, so that we can sort of break down everything that we might think will happen. And that episode will come soon enough because the season's coming to an end very quickly. Carter, besides that today, I mean, I think let's take a quick break. Let's get into all the roster moves that have happened with some injuries and some other things. We talked about a couple of them yesterday, but let's get into sort of the bulk of them today. Take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll get you moving on this Wednesday episode of Locked On Blue Jays.
For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Gretzky or a Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to the slab picks from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value and a complete view of all possible cards and clear hit rates for each one. So with collecting cards, I've been collecting cards since I was like 4 years old. Obviously, we'd go to the States, we'd go wherever. I'd find a card behind my dad's bed, and I would pick that card as well. I actually recently got a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. rookie card, so I'm very excited about that. I got that using Arena Club's slab pack drop. Great opportunities there. I'd advise you guys to take the opportunity if you do love collecting cards. Go over to the arenaclub.com website and just look at their offers. A lot of good stuff over there. So right now you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb and use code LockedOnMLB. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb, code LockedOnMLB for 10% off your first purchase.
So, Carter, we talked about the game and sort of what implications moving forward. Let's get into some of the roster moves, as there has been a few that came out sort of today and overnight. So let's jump right into that.
Yeah, seems like there was a million of them in this game. Actually, I got to go to the note page I have because there was too many to keep track of. So we'll start off with this. Will Wagner, left knee inflammation. His season is being shut down. He's on the 60-day IL. I don't know if it's necessarily that serious. It's just there's 2 weeks left of the season. It's going to be longer than 10 days. So that shuts down him down for the season. It's unfortunate for Will Wagner, one of those guys that you want to get the playing time. But again, there's 12 games left in the season. I've liked what I've seen from Will Wagner. I think he's shown us a lot of good flashes, something that he can build on in this offseason. Hopefully him going out at this point gives him the opportunity to still have a full offseason, do the things that he is accustomed to doing, and just work on his craft and hopefully get better for the 2025 season, make a little bit of a run for the opening day roster. But moving on, I'm just going to kind of just shoot all these out here. Daulton Varsho has a right shoulder strain, actually might need surgery on that shoulder as well. So that's going to be going into spring. Obviously won't have a regular offseason if he does have that shoulder surgery, but it shouldn't be something that affects his 2025. So if you're Daulton Varsho, you know you need a rotator cuff surgery, get that right now. You're not playing meaningful baseball. We know what you can do for the Toronto Blue Jays. Take care of your health. We're going to hopefully need you for 2025 to play some meaningful baseball. Steward Berroa was recalled from AAA, will be active for the game. Obviously, Bichette was called up once again as well. And then we claimed Nick Robertson. This guy is a relief pitcher. He was optioned from the Angels. Just another guy to just kind of bolster this bullpen for the back half of the season. Ton of roster moves. The big one being Bichette. That's the main one you're going to see through fruition for the last couple weeks. And the main one, I guess, you're not going to see is Daulton Varsho, the guy that would be playing every single day regularly, getting shut down for the season. So some big moves from the Toronto Blue Jays camp. A lot of roster moves. Braden, overall from those four, are you taking anything away from this? Are you excited? Are you disappointed about any of these moves?
I mean, I think it's good that Daulton Varsho is going to get this, hopefully, surgery done quickly so he can move into the offseason and sort of start building it back before we're rushing into the season. I think that's huge. The Will Wagner stuff, I'm really not taking too much away from. It's the end of the season. It is what it is. Just take him out. Make sure he doesn't, hurt anything more. Another one I have for you, Carter. Adam Mako, the Blue Jays' 9th overall prospect, was also moved to the Bison, so he'll be playing there, which is nice to see. But besides that, yeah, the Bo Bichette one is by far the biggest. Getting him some at-bats to late in the season to carry over some confidence, I think, is going to be massive for this ball club. And Carter, honestly, we're getting to that point now where there's not a ton going on. Yes, there are these roster moves and what happens in the game. What are the implications moving forward? But for the big component of this, there's not news every day coming out that's going to affect the day-to-day of the Toronto Blue Jays. So, you know what? We're going to keep, digesting these games and picking apart what we can find before we move into the big offseason episode. We are going to want to hit you guys with a huge live stream sort of to end the season. We're gonna schedule a day where we're gonna tell you guys, okay, this is the big episode. Come by, drop your comments, thoughts, and we'll sort of just go through everything together. Maybe have a couple beers or something as well. Hopefully it's on a weekend, so I'm not struggling to get to work on a Tuesday. But Carter, I guess anything else before we sort of let everybody know why we're excited for tomorrow's game or today's game?
The only thing that I kind of wanted to go into before you did say, I got two things, I guess. Before you said this team used to just be the worst team of all time, especially at the top of their lineup. Remember a time in the season, seems like forever ago, Toronto Blue Jays went 29 straight games without scoring a run in the first inning.
Yeah.
Bichette being there probably would have helped that a little bit, but obviously in his regular form. So you see it now. It's definitely nice to get some runs early on in the game. But other than this, it does have to stem with Bichette as well. So you get Bichette coming back, obviously had some lower body issues. Do you have Bichette? Again, I'm not entirely sure what the injury extent is. Is he actually 100% ready to go? You would assume he is. But if there's any lingering injury, if there's any way that Bichette isn't feeling 100% out there, for me, I don't want him playing necessarily all 12 games in the season. I think you got to schedule in some rest days. This guy hasn't played baseball consistently for about a month and a half. I think you got to be lenient. I think you don't overextend Bichette. What is it going to matter if Bichette gets 20 at-bats compared to 30 at-bats for this end of the season? I don't think so whatsoever. If it was me, I probably wouldn't have brought Bichette back at all because I don't want to risk the injury. I don't want him to maybe even decrease his value even farther if the trade is an option. Again, there's so many different things with Bichette that we're going to be talking about. Hopefully we do get a contract extension that would at least lock him in. But Bichette is probably going to be the story of the offseason. I just don't want him having another unfortunate play for a 2024 that's already lost for Bichette. Don't want him doing anything that could affect his future with the Toronto Blue Jays.
I totally agree. If it was up to me as well for the 12 games remaining in the season that he might play 8 of, I don't necessarily know that bringing him back was the best decision, and hopefully he doesn't get hurt and nothing will happen. That has to be the main objective of this. If something does happen or he has any type of feeling one way or the other, you got to get him out of the game. You got to just pull him, sit him down, call it a season, and move on to the offseason. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. The contract talks are going to be huge with him and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., so we'll see what happens there.
Do you think part of this Bichette bringing him back stuff is kind of to get to know some of the players as well? A lot of these guys on this roster now haven't necessarily been with Bichette whatsoever. So do you think part of this with the management is just him kind of showing face, building relationships as well? Or is this strictly just based on his skill, based on his gameplay? You want to see what Bichette can do for not only this season, just for his future. And maybe you want to see if Bichette still is Bichette. Again, that's a little bit of a crazy thing to say, but crazier things have happened with injuries. You want to see that Bichette still does have that potential to be a superstar player for your franchise.
No, I don't think it's the face thing at all, getting to know any of these guys. I mean, he's been around the dugout. He's been around the clubhouse. He's run into these guys. He's talked to these guys. This isn't anything new for any of these guys to meet Bichette. This is a total confidence thing so that he's confident moving into the offseason and into 2025. That's what this move was about. And what I'm praying that it is that he's fully recovered, he's ready to go, and we might as well give him a few at-bats. More so than we need to rush him back to see what he has. I don't think that's the case. I think looking at the injury, there was enough time to see that Bichette has made his recovery steps and is now back and ready to play baseball.
That's the only explanation that makes sense in my head, is that you want Bichette to be confident going into the 2025 season. Wouldn't make any sense that if this guy had any sort of lingering injury, anything that wasn't feeling 100%, why would you throw him back in? You want this guy to be healthy, whether you're going to move on from, whether he's going to sign with your team, whether he's just going to play out his contract this season. You're going to need Bichette to be healthy for 2025 in any facet, no matter what that is. So with Bichette, I want this guy to stay healthy. Obviously, I would rather watch Bichette play baseball than some of these other guys. But also saying that, I think Leo Jimenez could probably benefit more by getting at-bats right now than Bichette could. But again, there's always two sides to a sword. There's always two sides to a story. So you got to kind of make some sacrifices if you want some other things to work out. But that's pretty much all I got for this episode. We're going into the game 2 of the series. This is the Bowden start, right?
That's about to start. Yes, sir.
Big game from our boy Bowden. Who cares who's pitching for the Rangers? We said it yesterday. I don't care what happens offensively. We got enough offense to the series, in my opinion. So it's Bowden Francis. It's Bowden Francis Day tomorrow. This is the game. If we win 1-0, not gonna be upset. That means Bowden Francis shoved, and I'm gonna be content for the night. But other than Bowden Francis, anything else you're looking at? Probably just Bichette looking to continue his start. David Schneider, maybe another bomb for you.
Yeah, anything that David Schneider can produce on offense is going to be big for me. Again, it's back to the whole confidence piece, right? You got to get him confident moving sort of into 2025. That's got to be the goal of this end of the season for him. But besides that, Carter, not a whole lot else. I'm excited to watch Bowden. As always, guys, thank you for making us your first listen every day. If you want to go sort of get a bigger picture, some of the big MLB storylines, maybe not to do with the Blue Jays, you can go check out Locked On MLB with host Paul Sullivan. Sully, our guy. He has it all covered there. So you can make him your second listen. As always, appreciate it a ton for you guys watching, sticking with us. We'll have our big off-season episode. We're going to hype it up, or not episode, but live stream. We'll do a live stream. We'll do an episode. There's going to be a ton to go over, and the off-season is going to be a huge one for this Toronto Blue Jays team. So make sure you guys stay tuned to Locked On Blue Jays.